Let's get in position locations, high channel operation stream. Hooah! Communications are good, line signals are good, activation streams are good, foundations are good, allocate timelines, switch interference, position locations are good. All channel operation stream locations, all levels of channel. Now, we're going to in position locations to computer line settings. To understand that, what's happening, we're going to set up a graph streamline setting, showing exactly what's going on with the calculation locations. All right. Now, welcome everybody to generalized spacetime. Creation of line center location, all communication settings, all levels of high center rotation. In position location and directions, there's all levels of U. Position location. All right. So we got three graph streams. 1, 2, 3. Okay. That's a graph. All right. Line setting, line conditions, all levels. Let's open all track locations. This is what's going to happen as of tomorrow line setting. Okay. Come into communication system. 6 in center location, equal line conditions of 5. Okay, / generation line conditions of ground lines of levels. Okay, the activation stream line center. Now this location to its awakening system opens all channel operations to its formation of its alliance, setting out calculation stream. So set position locations, that's high channels operation streamlines. Okay, the center communications, all levels, it's high setting. Now this opens all communications into flux capacitor communications, center calculations into 1, 1, 1, 1. Line position locations come into weather line center location of 4 division locations as centers. Okay. Now those 4 divisional center line settings. Now to get into the mind adaptation signals is to truly understand how the 6-dimensional graph is set up position locations to its activated line stream. Now that position location opens all levels into your seasons of fall, spring, winter, and summer. Calculation setting line interference puts more communications into all level signals. This opens all position location of its directions. All right. Truly understand that it's just a higher communication setting. So calculation setting here on the ground setting. All right. That's 6-dimensional locations, right? So they go up to the graph location, right? Activation stream setting. So they stay here in position of directions, right? So they channel through 4 communications of 4 line settings. Okay. Now they stay there in line setting. The awakening signals high opens up positions of vector over line cross, comes into 1, 1, 1, 1. They come into the first port of communication setting. Now direct locations comes to high channels, comes into a down signal. That's a 0 gravity locations in ground setting in cross circle. Cross circle opens all communication setting, opens a high line setting rotations. Indirect line setting comes into all position locations into high channels of 7. Right? This is the CP units. Okay. CP units line setting. So line division line setting in rotation center locations is higher level calculations. Now the PC units will be in position of program locations. Now the program location sets a higher levels of computer adaptation surface that sets its tone on communication to all levels of vibrational graph settings. All right. 6-dimensional line setting, high interference of this awakening line setting sets position locations to supporting communications in its first position line setting of 6, 7, and 8. The inhibitor position location changes the program locations. So you get out of the dream circles, dream centers, you come into full communication of astral projections. Tomorrow line center location 12 a.m. Mexican Standard Time locations, right? That's 12 signals and 2 0 gravity line settings, equal connections, all lines into 1, 1, 1, 1. Force communications, 1 port of calculation. So in that position of its directions, the highline center comes into all levels. We go to highline position location to 8-dimensional signals, right? So you have to learn how the 6, 7, and 8 works through the video graph location of all calculation, right? 8 centralizes communications, comes into its theta box. Center calculation comes into 8-dimensional space line, okay? So this comes into all line center locations into digital computer program locations, right? So high formation line setting. So you guys will be 8-dimensional space in between line center, 9-dimensional signals. So that's how it's going to be set up. Okay. Formula, high setting line conditions, all levels in line center rotations. All right. 4 weather patterns communication in 6-dimensional line setting. So it's setting up all dimensional screens in positions through activation screen locations. Once they wake up to that line setting, they're automatically in six-dimensional lines and 900 capacity high center of 114 chakras, setting in position location into the first portal communication setting. 1-1-1-1, right? That grasps its streamline center to stay in the galaxy position location of its direction line setting, okay? Coming more levels of its awareness of calculations to high stream, all right? So that's what's going to happen, right? Truly how to set locations in division line setting to all calculations to 6, 7, and 8. Now, the 8 line center sets higher alignment division locations when you come into higher position atmosphere line settings. So what it is the physical element line setting is going to be higher levels of alter state location, right? So more in the mind line setting, less in the body track line setting. Okay? More adaptation of minds coming in position location to its directions to all levels of what you do through your astral travels, astral projections, astral connections. Astral connection is line setting to all levels of the cosmic universal location. It's all levels of adaptation to perception locations. Okay? So setting line settings, it's all levels. So in position locations, we come into 18, 19, and 20, right? 18, 19, 20. All right, so setting signal locations comes into block surface, but the block surface is high channel operation into its computative setting, right? So the higher you go through chakra setting, the more it positions its highline center to higher levels of higher position locations to your GOD. The geometric operation of design setting sets all position location of its direction to higher levels of channel operation. Travel communications box its position location of its directions. High channels is a high optical line center to an optical line center rotation in inferior position location directions. So your boxing position location of 18, boxing position location of 19, and boxing position location of 20, right? So we started off with 0 in that line setting. Now you guys have a quiz coming up on Saturday. The recognition line setting, you have to truly understand how to set the position locations, all levels of your target settings from 0 to all position location of 25, right? 2 line setting and 5 division line setting is the rotation spin cycle in position your time capacitor, high center location, heart generation light stream that sets position location of its direction. Okay. So in that position locations, we all levels of channel line center, block surface to higher line communication settings. All levels of channel operation line setting opens all graph locations into a AI map sequence position of a pattern that high position location of its calculations to its geometry setting line setting. Complicated, right? So the higher you go through digital frames and number sequence locations, you come into more line setting to a microchip. That microchip sets line positions to its data streamline setting into 4 position line settings, 8 position locations calculations, and all line center locations of 12. 12 central communications in 4, 8, and position of 12 location. Just through 18, 19, and 20 lines. All right, so the geometry line center changes position locations of levels. The set line position location is your connections to your keyboard. Now this faces its line signals into levels of interfacing. Interfacing channels of operation stream settings sets the correlation panel in position location of directions. So it's interesting to look at these line settings. All right, so we have the zero gravity location. Okay, so we got the crop circle line setting. Okay, crop equals line set location in pyramids. All right, we start with line setting. And center communications to higher levels of block locations. So your block line setting changes position location and directions. Center calculations all the channel operation stream setting locations. So it's all about understanding how to set the block channels in your atmospheric lines of your data stream position location and calculation. Ooh-ah. All right. So you got channel line setting line interference. Now line center locations of 14 comes into 15, comes into 16, comes into 17, comes into 18, comes into 19. Center line position location comes into 20. Hoo-ah. That's how it's set up. Now the center line position locations, look closely, you can see the line pyramids communications, right? One position area 1, position location area 2, and one position line center interference of area 5. Okay, so this center its communication line centers of 1, 2, and 5 central communications. Right now, this sets its tone in high line setting a higher vibration location to its position. So setting line signals sets line position location, how you use 14 communications. One line center into solar plex locations, one line center into the heart reactor line division, which is 1-5. 16 is one line center to the throat pattern. Now 6 is position of the throat. Once you reach higher line settings, it's higher divisional line center location digital brain. It's no longer the throat, it's a throat pattern. So you're just adding frames, right? So in that center line position locations, 17 is one line setting in ground line center interference in position locations on levels of your travels of mechanism high setting in calculations to your theta box, right? 17 line center in line position location to its pyramid locations to all levels of 6, 7, calculation 8, and 9 stays in the center position. 6, 7, and 8 right there, right? Okay, see it? 6, 7, 8, 9. Center calculates and sets line positions to your theta box. The box its position location of its directions. That opens all channels and travels it through the line position location that sets line position of tone settings to 20 calculation. All right. So in 17 line setting, you just have to understand how to use your theta box communication setting because it sets position locations to higher levels in your direction. Let's go you position line centers of 4 theta box line streams 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Set and position location directions, right? There's 4 line settings, right? That's its communication system. Now 18 is one line setting into your infinity circle, set positions of telepathy for the very first time to telekinesis. This opens all channel box calculation setting, right? Extremely high rise line setting interference. Understanding 14, 15, 16, and 17, 18, 19, and 20 is all positions how you set up its map sequence of the size graph line setting that's connected to the avatar through its geometry location of operation of design, direction location of its dimension, time setting, opens all factor communication. Space-time over line setting sets line position locations to its high setting that has so much interference in position, location, of direction. Hoo-ah. Okay, so now you understand the 18 line setting, right? One line setting is always position. Always use the 12 foundations of your ground setting to your tracker systems in correlation. Try to use it in your mainframe set lines that sets the high center location to the hydrolysis, that sets communication to its mainframe, that sets communication to its cerebral, that sets communication to your placebo cortex line stream. And that position location is all levels of track setting. Setting the track setting, setting position location to its calculation setting opens all communication rotations. All right, so once you get into that, you come into 19. Now, once you leave the 18 line stream, you circle its position location, which comes a Fibonacci swirl, right? A rotation spin cycle with an 8 line setting. That's above locations. So you're no longer in the 7 ground setting of gravity location and water interference. Your direct line signal in position location comes into weather. Weather communication sets line positions to higher levels of channel operation streamlines that higher its alteration communication to its mind of its patterns. Now, this opens all communication settings into summer, winter, fall, and spring. That centers communication to your grounds, your airs, your waters, and your fires. Okay? So, in that direct line setting, once you come in out of the 7 body of tracks of water, you come into the line setting in position of infinity circle, which comes into all position location of stargates of Orion's belt. Now, once you get into alteration, your state changes the conscious line of the tronic line setting that sets the all position location to its meridian setting, in setting position to your pixel stream location that sets all communication to your sun. That reposition locations to your moon to high line setting to flux capacitor, E line position location to calculation, 2 line setting, 3, 6 position locations, allocate high setting interference, allocate stream interference, box position location calculation. So line connecting is set position location of directions, right? So 1 line setting to 9 line setting is the solar position location that's connected to its chakra. That's a solar star chakra. So it's an energy wash. Okay? That's what it is. 19 is an energy wash line setting. That's 19 representation location to your chakra setting. Okay? Coming into all line setting rotations of positions of 20. 20 is the community line setting the positions to your galactic family, setting position location of its tones, open all the ancestry and its tree formation locations to your calculations. All right. This is where you come into the astral travels, astrophysical connections to your astrology of your chart, your positions to your solar system line setting. This sets all position, location, directions to your atmospheres of change position. Now, it's to understand the atmospheres, the hemispheres, the stratospheres, the bioatmospheres, the brainiospheres, the hydrosphere setting line position. You have to truly understand how the avatar works through the chakra system. Okay? Now, we're going to get set line signals in height and position location and direct line setting. Okay? So, understanding 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, and what it all means inside location of the avatar line setting. Okay? It's reaching higher levels of consciousness. Okay? So, you reach the higher levels of consciousness. This high rises your theta box to higher levels of vibration. And that vibration high channels it ground setting, circle rotation, center position location calculations. You have to learn how to use your hand formation line setting in code weaving line setting, circular position location, circular tori line center, and interference location of triangles, position location calculations, setting communication setting, and position location of 2, position of 3, positions of 4, positions of 5, position of 5 line setting, high center interference location calculations. Barcode interference, set position of 5 settings. Off signal location, position, directions. Set positions, spectrum calculation. Cross signals, high center interference. So truly understand when you go to reach high line settings to all adaptation system, you come into all position locations of your calculations to your chakra settings. Okay, so you get a better understanding, right? Because you have a quiz coming up on Saturday. All right, so tomorrow line signals, we'll get in positions of 21 to 25. So we don't want to go too far ahead in line setting, location, adaptation, and mind setting because it sets all position location off track setting. All right, so we'll go back in position locations. You guys are going to travel through 14 all the way to 20 setting. Okay, 14 line position location, equal line conditions of the box. Okay, so box comes into triangle communication system to 15. Now 15 sets line position location of balance. This is how you set locations into position line setting into all calculations, right? To your formulas, to your equation line setting. Factor over calculation. All right. So 15 setting line position locations come to setting. All right. So you got your north position locations in position location east, east line west, in location of south. Diamond core line setting position locations into your console calculation. Now the console line setting comes into position to center communication. First communication comes into 16. Now this 16 line center sets its graph locations, high line channel comes in position location of its graph location, center calculations, right? Now the 16 line setting lines position locations all level system. This is how your chakra system is set up through your thought pattern communication setting. Now it's all about understanding setting graph location as stream settings. So in that position locations come to 17. You block its system line position of higher levels of direction. So 17 line setting comes in position location to your theta equals line center locations of communication. All right. So downshift center line position comes into 18. 18 becomes circle line center locations to all positions to how you calculate the amount of your center lines into your planet setting locations. See the intelligence? Setting communications into 19 position locations comes into the solar line setting of its chakra. Solar star chakra, which is all position locations to energy equals wash. Position line setting in calculations. All right. And 20 is line setting line positions to the tree formation line setting of your galactic family line setting, rotation interference. So this is about understanding how to use the signals in position of its directions to balance all calculations to how you use your capacitors in timeline setting. Okay. So you got 20 calculation setting and position locations. You box its position locations into high setting, okay, in direction, right? So travel position location on lines at PCU, position of CPU in a DCP setting line setting. Interference position location, get them in travel line setting, foundation, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right, so you guys are traveling through line setting interference. Better traction. Better information line centers, a data stream locations. The inner line setting sets capacity to your conscious locations, guys, how you use your energetic graph streams. Now, a graph stream is to truly understand the palpitations of your heart. how fast it's going in position of directions, right? In that line signal, you have to learn how to slow it down. You can breathe underwater a lot longer in that position of direct line setting. Now, this sets its position locations how you use the communication to your air. Air position location oxidized, high center oxygen locations. This is where you come into the H2O line setting rotation interference. This opens all levels of hydro calculation setting that opens all position location to your calculation setting interference. This opens all position locations to your fire. This sets all positions of deleting all program locations to its position. The all calculation is truly to understand how to use all this in position through your chakra settings. Okay? Air, water, fire, and that position locations into earth is all levels of foreground settings. It's all connected to your weather patterns of your seasons. The relation setting is truly saying how to use the mind adaptation of its surface that opens all position location of its directions. All right. So are we all having fun in that position, that direction? All right. Things are going extremely well. That's fantastic to see that setting. All right, so where we are with the calculation locations. Madeline setting, Adam position locations. Gingy, Jill, calculations, all levels, high setting center locations of Lindsay, Gypsy, Nikki, Airbender, Heather, calculations of Laura, Cami, Sparkles, Geneva, Joanne, all levels, high setting location of Pam, Tina, ninth center, Danielle, position of David, position location of Andy, Arlene, connection line settings, all position locations of Ash, position of Tara, position location JP of Val, in position of Chris, calculation on lines, Johnny, calculations of Guardian, calculations high setting, indirect location. Now, everything that we're doing, we're just reaching higher levels of alterations of the mind. That's all this is. So in that position of its process calculation setting, this opens all track setting locations to your position of directions, right? How to use this to your benefit, right? Helps you and always informs how to use the mind setting without any hesitation of anything through thinking line setting locations. Your position location is all levels of travel line setting. If you get 14 communication settings, right? 14 equals communication, right? Slash settings. All right. The setting communication opens all line setting to position location to your flux capacitor. Flux capacitor line signals at these locations, high center location east, and line center location of west, sets position locations. Now, north is always a reference in calculations to its self communication. All right. So it's interesting to look at these line setting. Clock locations to its settings, there's locations one way, indirect location the opposite way system. Line center location, indirect locations. Right? So channeling settings is truly same position. So the higher you go to understand more lines of the alteration of the mind of its consciousness reaches higher levels of your geometry setting. Okay. The avatar comes into more engineer, okay, of its hologram structure. But you have to understand the platitude division locations from 0 to 25. All central system to all position location and direction is a digital frame line. It sets its position location to its tone setting that sets line position locations and how you use the synchronous locations to its string theory. Now, the theological line setting location to its theta box sets position location of its string theory to an attachment system to its alignment that sets recourse, line centers, revamp, recalculate, remodify its division location of its high setting. So in that position of its direction, it's true to understand how to use this through all modification. Your simulation is open and always informs the graph settings, all right? True to understand how to use that position of directions, right? 0 to 25, once you get into that position locations, we're going to channel line setting to higher line setting locations, higher position locations to your pocket cells, energy cells, solar generation interference, and position location directions. foundations and high center line conditions, intelligence over form position over raise position over width position over traction position over Y line center, XYZ position location, console communication and modification over X line setting, communication of bounds communication line setting, metric and reference location of kaleidoscope in position location of levels and position location of grounds. So this is about understanding how this works for you in all calculations, right? Because you're reaching higher levels of space line, okay? So the space line communication is the conscious setting, right? You got one position of grounds, right? And then you come into the subtronic, and then you come into the subterranean, and then you come into all level system locations, balance calculations, generates light streams into solar panel communication. Once you reach that line center, you come into high line position location of superunconsciousness. Consciousness. Okay, staying above the system right here. High lines, a higher position, acceleration to its flux capacitor, staying in that line setting. Anything below line setting changes your graph locations, right? Changes your graph. See the graph? Changes your graph, changes your graph, changes your graph, changes your graph. See what it does? So the energetic line changed to streamlines and line center interference. Now you got layers and layers and layers of communication line streams that sets the geometry location at different locations. Now that splits in 4 position locations. 1, 2, 3, 4 line settings. Film strip position location, all the track locations, right? So you're a film projection of a story frame line stream in high setting. So setting line position locations on levels comes into your positions to how you see yourself through vision and cortex line. Now the cerebral sets line position locations that opens all channel operations streams. Now this sets line positions to your illustration, your diagram, your program settings. That line setting changed position locations to higher levels of astral travels, astral projection locations, out of lucid dream, out of dreamlight setting, all position locations to its visionary setting that sets position locations to its mind alteration. This is where you come into higher lines of communication of altered state calculation. The communication setting sets all position location to its directions, all right? But it's interesting how you change location of graph streams all through the conscious line. So the conscious line stays line position locations. Anything below that is density communication, right? Density communication, right here. Density. You don't want to be in that line setting, all right? Not the waving central communication system that you're at through all communication, right? Density, conscious line, subline, subterranean line, center, and superunconscious locations. Solar generators and light stream is all fluctuation to all position of time capacitor. Time positions, time factor over pi. Now the central communication system changes all line setting. So the grass line setting locations, this is where you come into 14 communication, right? So you set the grass streams, right? So let's go in position locations. All right, so you got 14 line setting, right? In setting communication to 15, in setting location of 16, in setting location of 17, in setting locations of 18, in setting locations of 19, and position locations of 20 setting. Right? 14 all the way up to 20 in setting, all through your energetic graph streams in position locations, how you use the density line to your communication of its conscious line to the subline, to the subtronic line center interference, to the subterranean line setting to its super consciousness, sets its position locations to all levels of videograph screen line conditions of your thought settings. Hoo-ah. All right. So this is a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun. You should be having a lot of fun to understand more line communications of what your chakra system really is. So I know it's powerful stuff, Trinity. I'm just showing you guys the basic foundation, why it's so important to get out of the body conception line of density stream position locations of allocated space of time position of its pi. Okay, density does have its pi, but it's a low conversion line setting that's off its cis locations and set position locations all levels of glitch. You're in a full communication of glitch line setting. Now the higher vibration load changes to the glitch line setting interference. And once it reaches all line setting and stays in position to the subtronic line setting to the subterranean level, the water track setting, line settings opens communication setting. Now that I communication is a teleportation graph stream that sets its tele-waving signals in positions all levels of calculations to code weaving, right? Recognition line setting of clock line setting and line center rotations into 12 circle locations, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 circle rotations. Right? It's like back in the 80s. Remember those telephones where you put your finger in the whole connections, right? Same thing, line setting. So it's understanding that your set position locations is zero gravity location of 14. 14 line setting sets position locations, right? And let's say 16 sets position location in the center, but you got a box as position locations because they're high travel and high line setting into position locations of 12 foundation. Now, 16 comes in high center interference. 16 comes in a throw pattern. Say 16 comes in line center location, but it's off system, so you got a circle line center rotation, right? 17 came line center rotation of its theta box, is set position location to its satellite sets locations to its TV reception line. And line center location comes into 18 line positions, right? So what you're doing is you're code weaving channels through initial locations. All right. So we got 14, we got 15, we got 16, we got 17 lines and 18 position locations, all levels of height setting into graph streams into infinity system. Okay. Now the 15 infinity system line setting comes into 19. So 19 is basically a higher line center which comes in an energy wash. This basically sets the force line triangle in calculation setting and sets a new tone division line setting, rotation, and coloration to its tracker setting. So it's like in position location where a car goes through a wash. Car goes for a wash. Same thing, right? Same thing with the tracker setting. But you're in position of one line setting to 9 line connections, right? So out with the old, in with the new. So out with the old chakra system, in with the new solar star chakra setting. Okay? This is an energy wash. This is a rainbow wash. Okay? That's what it does, locations. So understanding what the avatar is doing through its seconds, minutes, hours of the dayline setting to its calculation. Setting line setting and interference specification directions. And 20 is calculations to all levels of your galactic signatures that sets line connections to your galactic family that opens its position locations, all calculations to high channels of operation to its ether in calculation. Higher channels operation, stream setting, line position locations, calculations. All levels of energetic dome settings. All right. So now you understand the process of what it really means to you in the avatar setting inside location. Powerful stuff, isn't it? Representation is how you see yourself through its energy, through its vibration, its frequencies, and its harmonics, guys. That's all this is. So, like I said, I always work with one line setting because that's where it starts locations, or you can even line set location of 0. 0 equals one line setting, one locations of 3, 3 goes back into 2, the 2 goes into 4, 4 goes into 6, 6 goes back to 5, 5 goes into 7, 7 goes into 8, and 8 goes into 9. See how that works? All through travel, right? So your chakra system is set in so many different line settings, all travel calculations, mechanism, position, location, and capacity to set its communication to all the setting, right? So you have to really understand how to travel through your number sequence, location, and pattern settings, right? So let's say you got a zero gravity line setting location, a crop circle, set position, location, and direction locations, right? All right. So this sets line settings into set location. That's your crop circle. Now the crop circle sets position location to its pyramid that opens all line setting locations and 4 line setting locations. All right. So it's an umbrella setting, right? So you got rainbow streams coming in line setting, all position of sonar calculation, right? Now the sun line setting is swirling down in position of directions at 3 position line calculations, right? Comes in position locations right into the center operation. Okay. Now these 3 circles set lines, position location, equal line center locations of 1, 1, 1. 3 communications, you set the graph stream in setting line connection. Right? Now, this is very confusing, right? Because you don't understand what's going on with your crop circle and your pyramid at the same timeline setting. But the position location of its direction is all levels of 0 to 20. So I set locations into 25 signals in high setting interference. So the tracker system has already set up locations, and the pyramid does all position locations, all calculations into three communication of circles of all line setting, equal line conditions, all line setting, and positions of navigation. Okay? So, so that's why I want you guys to get set first. You have to get in positions to your 114 trackers before you get into your navigation locations of your pyramid, which is going to be in March setting locations to its equinox. The equinox is going to set line communications to all levels. The crop circle is going to fade its system line setting, disappear positional calculations, coming into your pyramid line setting into 4-box locations into its weather. And then you come into full communication to your season lines. Right? So it's all about understanding how to use your thought lines and your data stream location to its processor. This is processing your communication settings and how you use your uplinks, your downloads, and your upgrading systems. Okay? So there's a lot to understand through calculations, through the crop circle to the pyramid setting, right? All right. Yes, I know. It's incredible, isn't it, Val? So if you understand your body, you understand the concept that you have a mind. Now, if you understand the mind, you have to understand the heart. And if you understand the heart, you understand the soul. What do you do when you put all that together? Compromise, acceptance, surrender, discernment, ascension, unified, activation, correlation, division, sector, vector, chakras, streams, intelligence, lights, darks, coloration, patterns, equation, formula. See how that works? Everything is balanced inside of you. Once you understand the position of direction, then you understand the course of channel operation stream settings from 0 to 25. But in calculation setting, you have 114. Now, the reason why I say but is because it's a position locations to understand all levels of ground setting first. All right. Now, coming into that division line setting, put you in a higher calculation setting, right? So when we get into the quiz, you have to really understand how to set the zero gravity locations, okay, to your crop circles, to your pyramid setting, right? Because if you can't do that, you want to understand how to navigate its line connections to its digital frame line setting, because you start with one number to two numbers to three. All right, so that's what you're working with locations, all through navigations. So you're working with 1, 2, and 3 line setting locations of digital frame in position location and calculations. Right? So you work with the one line setting. Now the 0 sets position locations into its pyramid system. Okay, this opens all communication setting, right? There's your pyramid, right? Once it surfaces, the one setting line setting comes into navigation setting. So the one line setting opens all communication. Once it opens all communication, you box the one line setting. The one line setting leaves the digital platform of communication to higher levels of travel locations, right? So, and then you come into line setting location of 2. They're separated first before they get into calculations. So you have to learn how to merge telepathy of telekinesis and position of process communications of 1, 2, and 3. Once you box the 3 line position locations, you are all in calculation to its digital format of its framing system. Now, once you get in its framing system, you come into higher levels of graph line stream settings and high interference of hologram structure locations. Hooah! Higher information line setting of digital formatting. Formatting is extreme information to its calculation of its alliance. Setting the position location to its system opens all track line connection. Grid setting to 1, 2, and 3 line setting. You start with the 0 gravity into the pyramid position. Once you get in navigations of 1, you come into 2. Once you come into 2, you come into 3. You put 1, 2, and 3 all together. You got a position locations to an energetic line center, to a calculation, to a cosmic universe location, to a grid. Why do you have a chakra system? To set up grids. Hoo-ah. All right, so I think we're getting in that line setting. I think we're understanding a little bit more locations of what's happening with you through revision. Okay, the perception always helpful. Great. So you guys are doing well. Extremely locations. Going to take you out setting line interference. Wait to position locations to come into all levels of 0, 0 location. Back in division. 40 line settings and 0 gallery locations. All right. Close your windows, close your portals, calculation setting, high line center interference. Very, very powerful class today. Obviously, you guys are going to have a lot of questions in that setting. I will go back on communications live, just to let you guys know what's happening with your generation light streams and your position locations and mind alteration line setting and calculation setting interference. You really have to understand the friendship of yourself. Say hi to yourself every day. What's wrong with that? How am I doing today? How am I doing tomorrow? How am I going to do the next day? These are the position locations you come into your future calculations of yourself. Me, myself, and I. Nobody else. So you involve your system in all calculations from inside line setting. You start to surrender locations of what numbers, letters, shapes, and symbols are in your position locations into your grid setting. So the reason why you have energy cells, pocket cells, a chakra setting, to make it very well clear, what you're doing is you're setting up grids in your hologram structure. So now you understand the importance of why you have that inside of you. Understanding the fluctuation is understanding the compound of its information setting. Okay? Because you're starting to answer more lines of you in question. And then you start questioning your systems inside location. But you're only dealing with you, nobody else. Not the team and that line setting, only you. Not with your friends, not with your family, not in any relation line setting. You're starting to understand more levels of you, not just with the inside locations, but you're arguing with your system inside location through emotional setting. Okay? So it's basically like having a conversation with yourself. Okay? Very informative locations, online settings. Back review communication with Gypsy, how she was coming into levels of personalities, right? Same thing, location, right? You can go into 5 personalities, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10. But it's all digitalized position locations to different numbers because you're in all different position location and perceptions, how you see yourself in your thought calculation setting, right? So I got one position location calculation offsetting. But wait a minute. If it's offsetting, where's the track line center location to its chakra locations of 12? The foundation location is offsetting locations because the 12 foundation is not centered in communication to its pyramid location that doesn't open the track line connections cross circle. Balance, 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 balance. So I re-corrected my system just by communicating with me and all formation location of a continuous line that opens all position location of its directions. The more you communicate of you inside of me, myself, and I, then you're not going to have any problem with the alteration line settings in that calculations. Okay? I have an alter ego, and so do I. Try to grasp that situation line setting. So I want you to understand how this works for you. To balance out you, to get into the yin and yang of you, is the balance all communications of you in your telepathy of telekinesis from your conscious location of your alter state line setting. That's the only way you're going to be able to balance everything in that position location and calculations, right? I got my left hand up, but my right hand's here, but it's balanced. I don't need to have both my hands up. This is off balance. No, it's not. It's balanced. You know why it's in balance? Because I already fixed it. To you, it's off balance because you see 5 channels, but you see a console information of 3 communications into a moon line setting. Now you got 2 division locations, set line, position location into its course line that opens its barcode calculation stream. All right, coming to calculation setting line position to its console communication of 2 line triangles. Setting communications, right? This is balance. 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 It's all balance because I already fixed it. So this is what you guys have to come into through your confrontation of your self-line connections that depletes the system location of deleting program locations. Have more of a conversation with yourself. That's how you get your answers of confusion. The answer comes in all ways and forms once you understand the vibration line stream. It sets locations at all level setting, right? So that you understand, you don't have to be a professional actor to act in your position locations on your behalf. You're acting on your behalf. You're saying things on your behalf. You're communicating with yourself on your behalf. Everything is your behalf. Me, myself, and I. That is the balance position location of 333. Heart, mind, and soul. Okay? So these are the things that you have to figure out yourself. Really, really, really reach the deeper core lines of levels of you inside locations to your realms of connections. Eye receptor lines, ear line position location of sonar, calculation, ring and ear position locations, throat pattern interference position location, interface line connections, or everything in channel operation is a continuous flow of the same direct line setting in all calculation. Okay? So heart, mind, and soul, 333. Right? If I have one hand up in line setting location, is this off balance because this is facing this way and my hand is facing the other way? No, it's balanced because I already fixed it. You see it off balance. This is what you have to understand. Better communication and master communication, all line settings of all level system locations, how you communicate to your own position of directions of yourself. Okay? Because if you can't do this, you're always going to be fighting yourself from inside location to its formula of its equation. And you're never, ever going to be able to understand anything through your travels and mechanism of space of time through your chakra setting. So it's very powerful when you come into these line connections. I could do this all day, communicate with myself because that's all I'm doing. But when you reach a higher line setting, a higher line position, you're reaching higher levels of vibration of frequencies, and then you're reaching higher communication of intelligence settings. And you realize it's not just your inner voice anymore. It's something else that you have to balance out. The more you come out of your body, the more you come into the mind of its alteration of space. So it's very powerful when you come in that position of perception, and the perception leaves the high line connections of its divisions. And then you go into high line connections to your galactic system, which is its energy core, the reset line position of its reprogram location, recalculates, remodifies, modifications in line center, and affairs specification directions, and opens all channels of operation inside of you, the heart reactor. Because all what's setting is your calculations of body frame, of traction, of reaction. So basically, your avatar is doing all the work. But to see the thing line is that you're not separated and allow you understand the position locations through your thought settings. Know exactly what your positive and your negative cycle line connection is you, position location, to the psychosis locations, to its psychological line connections. It's the energy line setting, the physical line adaptations, the mental line setting, the metaphysical line connections, the emotional line center, and the spiritual communication setting. Is all levels of you. Okay? Use that to its adaptation setting in that formation location, and then you understand all levels of you through channel operation. Higher level calculations of dimensions in space, divisions of time calculation. Hoorah. So we have a lot to discuss line setting, right? Tomorrow line setting, clocking line setting, forward calculations, setting rotations, and positions, right? 24,000 light streams in high setting locations. I'm going to put you guys on plateau line settings and 14 in setting communications in its directions, right? 0 to 25 calculation. Saturday is the quiz, all right? Have a great day. Adios.